Hello everyone. Today I'm looking at Life is Strange. This game, there's kind of this whole emerging genre of like movie games or interactive movie games where, they're kind of walking simulators slash, decision makers, and the story does change based on your decisions. And again, a lot of these games are very hit and miss, but apparently this is published by Square Enix and by Don't Nod. I don't know how to feel about this game because at first I thought, oh, this is going to be some incredibly cringy, teenage drama kind of thing. But it has a kind of unique art style, and I started to really enjoy the characters, especially Chloe and Max. They kind of have a very interesting character dynamic together, and really because Chloe is kind of this rebel and kind of unstable, you're kind of seeing how much you can push her or try to save her from going over the edge or being too crazy. But yeah, there's just certain moments in this game where I would be absolutely like frothing at the mouth with rage at how stupid the characters were, and then laughing at super hard at what they were doing. And at the same time, like, some of the writing is very good, and they have a lot of very kind of like indie style tracks. And it felt very, atmospheric at times. And I actually, in despite of, wanting to kind of hate this game, I really actually enjoyed it. Basically, so Max Caulfield is, this student who's taking photography at this fancy schmancy West Coast or East Coast art school or whatever. West Coast, actually. And so basically, the thing that occurs is that using her camera, she's able to do things like reverse time, or in some cases go into another dimension, or like a different like time loop, basically. And so again, there aren't a lot of quick time actions in this game. It's more based on decision making and stuff like that. And so the narrative, I feel, is kind of like more targeted towards girls, but again, it feels just really well done characters, honestly, that I can't really deny. Of course, your relationship with either, Chloe or, any of the other characters, depending on your decisions and stuff like that, and how you encourage the characters to interact. I was kind of disappointed because when I first saw the trailers and sort of teaser art for this game, they had this much bigger scope and vision where essentially Max would essentially have not cosmic, but like psychic powers. There's this one image actually that really is kind of ingrained in my mind, where it's an image of Max with like medical bandages from the hospital around her head, and she's using some kind of power to like push this bus down the street. And so something kind of like Stephen King's Clary is kind of what I was going into this expecting, but instead I got a very atmospheric, kind of feely, gooey kind of game that I didn't want to get into, but kind of grabbed me and pulled me into it. And the game is kind of told in 5 distinct separate DLC packs, basically, that tell the whole story. And of course, depending on your decisions, it will change the outcome. Honestly, there was one point where in the game that really affected me, where essentially, the way Chloe is because her original father died in a car accident. And so you as Max are able to create this alternative universe where you're able to essentially go back in time and fix that. But by fixing that, it creates a butterfly effect, and it actually makes things in a way much, much worse. And it's one of these things where, again, I wasn't expecting the writing to take an actual turn to like something cool or good, and it really just did that, surprisingly. Like, it really makes the character feel a lot more dynamic because of one little event in their life. They become a completely different person. I thought that was actually really, really interesting and well done. Aside from that, there are other kind of your homeroom teacher, local police officer, a lot of authority figures, and kind of how the characters are very kind of anti-authoritarian and trying to do things on their own. But what's really funny, though, that I really like about this game, and it's not just about the narrative of anti-authority or whatever, but the characters themselves are very like realistic. And so when they do kind of go off on their own and do something they're not supposed to, they sometimes usually get in trouble for it. In fact, every time you encourage Chloe to basically do something illegal, it almost always ends with it going badly or wrong in some incredibly stupid way. And again, like, I'd laugh hard because I'm like, yes, you moron, you deserve this. And in other cases, you do feel really bad for them because, you know, of the way they are, and it is their own fault, but you do feel kind of bad for them at the end of the day as well. And yeah, there's a bunch of, you know, indie tracks that play throughout the song, throughout this game. It gives it a very distinct kind of vibe. Again, all the other characters and confrontations are, you know, kind of interesting. You have the typical school bully situation and all that other stuff. This one girl who's struggling with depression tries to kill herself. I mean, for like a teenage drama, romance / psychic storyline, whatever, it does it really well. And honestly, it kind of created a new kind of standard, at least for me. And I think for a lot of people that, oh yeah, this is what these games or what these stories are like. And it kind of became iconic in that sense. Again, there's just so many different types of these kinds of games, or games trying to be these kinds of games. But this is the only one that actually, I think, made it archetypical in a sense. Oh yeah, and I forgot the actual revolving, you know, mainline story is that there's a girl who's gone missing, and they need to find out who she is, or where she is rather. There's some, you know, tomfoolery afoot, and you know, one character is of course, you know, the murderer or the kidnapper. You need to basically be an investigative journalist and find out who that is. But yeah, this turned out to be a very comfy and unintentionally extremely funny game. And I have to just say this, but the part I burst out laughing is when, I mean, Max, she is such a sweet girl, so sensitive, but also just so dumb sometimes. I don't know. The fact when there are a bunch of whales that had washed up onto the shore, and there's this whole gimmick where, you know, like all the nature is kind of going haywire because of these unnatural psychic events that are never really fully explained. You know, she calls the whales beached angels. I just lost it. I couldn't like it's so ridiculous. But yeah, I forgot there are actually mechanics in this game. So you press L2 to essentially rewind time. And so there are certain events where, like, someone's falling, or someone's, misplacing like an item or something, or you need to hide before something happens. And of course, during when you finally confront the murderer, there's these whole kind of action sequences, and you have to intervene and help the other guy beat the other guy, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this game, it's really not my type of game, but it really kind of got me, and I just wasn't expecting that, and I'm really glad for it, honestly. Also, there are some situations where Max will have dialogue that has absolutely no impact on the story whatsoever. You'll have a choice between two different options, and it just doesn't matter. It'll basically be like screw you or F you, and I enjoy that. It's so stupid. It's so kind of, oh yeah, this is so edgy. This is so cool, and it's just. It's so lame, but it's so funny that they think it's cool. I don't know. I love it. But yeah, Teenage Girl with Psychic Powers Simulator. It's surprisingly better than I thought. Also, one of the songs, when they're hosting the party, Got Wilson by Breton, has been stuck in my head rent-free for years. I love that song. It is such a good bop. And yeah, finally, at the end of the game, you're faced with a decision that's actually pretty traumatic or interesting, where you have to choose between saving Arcadia Bay or saving Chloe. Honestly, both of these endings are really hard decisions and have very interesting impacts on how you feel about the game. And it doesn't really hold like there's one distinct ending or one right way, to go about seeing this through to the end. It's kind of like either one could be the correct or canon ending. And another thing that I kind of appreciate or realize is that now a Life is Strange, well, I call it Life is Strange 2. I mean, there is a Life is Strange 2, but it has a completely different character, completely different setting, and a completely different power, which is that she can feel empathy of characters. And again, I really tried to get into, the sequel, tried to give it a shake and whatever, and it just didn't click for me. I don't know. It's one of those very weird things again. It's like, oh, I can feel their emotions. It's like, okay, cool. Are you like a autistic middle school girl? Like, no, I don't care. So I don't know. It just didn't hit. And again, these games, they're very, hit or miss, I guess. But now there's like a third Life is Strange game, which it's kind of weird how they phrase it. It's a Max Caulfield game in the Life is Strange universe. So I guess they had to choose one of the timelines that they decided to kind of go with, I guess. Anyway, that's kind of all I can really say about this game. It's charming in its own demented, foolish little way, and I actually love it for that. Anyway, guys, I will see you later. Bye.